what are the investments firms should be making now. And they are not investments that you will not be familiar with. As Vernee Myers talked about, the importance of investments in systems. It is really important that we monitor the pipeline and we think about how we can change the systems within law firms or to create measures within those systems to make sure that everybody is advancing. So you're looking at your work allocation systems. You're looking at your performance evaluations very closely. You're looking at your pipeline, right? We often get the call when the press release is about to go out that there are no women in the partner class that you're about to announce. And I always say the same thing. I say, you could have seen that coming. Right? That is not a surprise to you. You could have seen that in the past 2 years, 3 years at least, if you were monitoring your pipeline and looking actively at what was going on. And so, yes, are there things where we're compassionate when we get that call? We will obviously work with firms to work on that. But the important message is you need to be intentional and strategic about looking at your pipeline actively to see where the divide is happening, who's getting the opportunities, who's getting the work, who's getting the kind of feedback they need, who's getting the kind of client opportunities that they need. And all along, in terms of your path to leadership, where are the opportunities and what does the breakdown look like for those opportunities all along the way? And then we need to be thinking about our time now during COVID, and we've heard all about it throughout the day on the tremendous impact on women and on caregivers. And firms need to be intentional about what they're doing as it relates to women and caregivers right now within their firms. And so the first thing is it is about the people. So we get the calls around what could we be doing to support our caregivers. And oftentimes it is not a one size fits all. It is about finding out the stories within your firms around how people are navigating these challenges, what are the challenges that they have, and then addressing those challenges. So as I said, it's not really going to be about a one-size-fits-all policy that you roll out right now, but it's about having the high-touch conversations. And then you need to respond accordingly, which means that it's not just about dealing with that one individual in terms of what it is that they need, but it's about assembling a critical care team around them. So it's not about saying to them, you are on your own to solve this and we'll support you as much as we can. But we're going to also talk to all the partners that you work with, to the people on your team. And we are going to find out together and that everybody is a part of the solution. So it's not just about you adapting and shifting behavior or doing something differently right now, but it's about how can we all shift and accommodate and adapt our behavior and rise to the level of care that is needed in order for everybody to be successful during this time. And then invest in what will work. Right? So I know that we're talking to a lot of firms and companies who are spending a lot of time investing in things that aren't necessarily going to move the needle during this time. So I keep saying you need to communicate with your people, you need to survey them, and you need to ask them what is it that is going to be most helpful during this time. I know sometimes a lot of us are throwing out a lot of different benefits and practices and things that you can do, but if we look at their effectiveness, they're not necessarily as effective as we need them to be to continue to provide the kind of support that our people need. And so I want to make sure that everybody is making the right kind of investments when you're thinking about what you can do during COVID and the impact that this will have on women and caregivers within your organizations. And then finally, over-communicate. I've talked to so many CEOs and executive teams and managing partners who will say, yeah, we know that we're likely going to keep our offices closed for another 6 months, but we're dripping that information to our people. That is really problematic. There is so much stress on people that you should not be now hiding the ball. Now is the time to communicate and over communicate, because if you can alleviate any small stressor, you should do that during this time. And so I urge all of you within your organizations and in your leaderships to be thinking about how can we over communicate right now and talk about where we are going. The amount of gratitude people have, and I think Kim expressed that in the beginning, that people have when their leaders show up and they communicate and they're transparent, should not go unnoticed. It is an incredible level of gratitude, and it takes a lot of pressure off. And then, as I talked about in my opening remarks, we need to be thinking about the future of work. Where in our organizations is flexibility going to live? And this is not a time to be stressing on a return to normal. We don't need to go back to normal because, as I mentioned, there are lots of part of normal and the status quo that are not worth returning to. So you want to be thinking about where can we go from here? What is the future going to look like? And as I may have mentioned, we are launching Work Life Recalibrated, which is an initiative where we will be bringing leaders together from different industries, but industry-wide together, to be talking about the future of work. And I'm really excited about this initiative because it will be a brain trust of leaders to be sharing how can we shape the future of work intentionally and to create the kind of inclusion that we need where flexibility will thrive.